Hi friends! Welcome back to Psygoth. My name is Courtney. We're going to talk about a fairly recent development in the neurobiology behind depression. I heard about this a while ago and then I completely forgot about it. And today I was like, oh, that's cool. And then I remembered, I have a science channel. You know how depression has always kind of been considered a chemical imbalance in the brain? Nope. In short, the literature just doesn't support the theory. So let's unpack it. But first, don't forget to hit like and subscribe to see more medical content from me. If you're new here, I always include a reference list to show where my information has come from. We ain't talking about Wikipedia. We're not talking about blogs. We are talking about proper academic literature. The idea of a chemical imbalance causing depression was first proposed by Joseph Schildkraut in 1965. He called it the catecholine hypothesis. A quote from his paper, verbatim. Elation, conversely, may be associated with an excess of these amines. Serotonin, the major player that we think about in correlation with depression, was first proposed by Alec Coppin in 1967. It's important to note that even back then, they weren't really convinced. Nevertheless, researchers and clinicians alike just took it and piss-bolted. This led to the creation of the selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor, or the SSRI. Some of you might take an SSRI. Hell, I take an SSRI. The way SSRIs work is that they stop the proteins holding that sweet serotonin from going back home to the presynaptic neuron, i.e. the brain cell. So in other words, completely differently to what I was told when I was 17. Thanks, Dr. Xantha. He knew I was a medical science student as well. It was implied that by preventing it from going back to the presynaptic neuron, it would increase the activity of serotonin. Speaking of, serotonin can be measured in blood, plasma, which comes from blood, and urine. I remember when I was working in the lab, we'd have big cartons like this, just full of piss. Because with serotonin, it's measured over a 24-hour period. So every time you go for a wee, you go in the container. Sometimes they were very empty. Sometimes they were very full. And other times, they overflowed. So not only did they fill the container, instead of just going back and asking for another container, they just pissed in the back and sent it to the lab. It was in the 90s when the pharmaceutical companies were pushing antidepressants as magic bullets to counteract depression, which is bullshit because, as stated by Farouk Alami et al. In 2021, 60% of patients don't find success with their first antidepressant. Pfizer, the creator of Zoloft, also known as sertraline, promoted SSRIs in the same breath as saying, well, chemical imbalances may be related to depression. I don't know, just give Zoloft a try. Capitalism. Not even the health industry is safe. Actually, you know what? How we just discussed that 60% of patients don't find success with their first antidepressant. My first antidepressant was sertraline, Zoloft. And I don't have any old depression. I have bipolar. And when you have bipolar, SSRIs can send you into a manic episode, which, I don't know, maybe in the future I'll talk about bipolar and other things. I don't know. Just hear me out. So instead of feeling, oh, life is okay, I was playing Wii Fit for hours on end. I was 17. And I was running around the pool table for 6 hours straight, slept for 2 hours, then went to uni all day, did it all over again. And I thought that was normal. And for whatever reason, I took myself off it, and then I came down from my manic episode. I wouldn't realize until I was 25 that was actually mania. As if that wasn't bad enough, Even the American Psychiatric Association was pushing this message. Remember, there's still very limited evidence that there's an association, yet clinicians are being told by Big Daddy to counsel their patients, saying that it's a chemical imbalance. It's this combo that has led to the widespread belief about chemical imbalances in depression. So far so that one paper did a survey and they found that 80% of participants believed in this correlation. I mean, so did I up until about 3 hours ago. Even in the dawn of this antidepressant hype, David Healy wrote in 1987 that there is no conclusive evidence. A position he maintained in his 2015 paper, where, according to some quotes, he's become a real sassy king in his old age. I don't know how old he is, but yeah, years and years of being a psychiatrist might do that to you. Some experimental studies show that the difference between using antidepressants and placebos were marginal at best. Maybe there is a placebo effect at play. You know, you get told your depression will go away if you take this pill. And you sort of hope against hope, right? Anyone that suffers it bad enough to need to turn to medication, they're desperate for something to lift that darkness. That isn't to say, however, that there are no effects on the brain. Evidence exists that there is an alteration to mood and behavior. Gotta tell you what, before I went on all my medication, I was an absolute cunt. The SSRI may indeed be working as planned, but it doesn't produce any serotonin. It just stops it from going backwards. Perhaps the availability of serotonin in the synapses doesn't really do anything to the postsynaptic receptor. Finally, I want to talk a little bit about a systemic review paper that I came across, which sort of ties everything together. And don't worry, it is very long, but I will summarize it down to the points that I thought were interesting and the ones that prove my point. This paper was written in 2022 by Joanna Moncrief. Now, because of it is talking a lot about neurobiology and neuropharmacology, I'm just going to put that diagram up from before. Unless you want to see my pretty face. Rude asses. A couple of studies looked at whether lower levels of serotonin, and thus depression, was caused by faulty serotonin receptors. These faulty receptors would prevent the release of serotonin in the presynaptic neuron. However, if this was the case, there would be more receptor activity in the brains of depressed people compared to those without. Turns out, there's no discernible difference between them. Who would have thunk? On the contrary, there was one paper that found evidence of SSRI use being linked to lower levels of serotonin. The serotonin transporter protein carries serotonin across the synapses. Again, the SSRI is meant to help that protein and serotonin sit in the synapses. 3 overlapping papers covering a total of 40 individual experimental papers found that the results were inconsistent. Now, I'm not a big fancy researcher with a PhD, but I think there's a trend happening here. Overall, the studies that had medium to high levels of confidence in their data showed that there was no correlation between serotonin levels and depression. The funniest thing is, the papers that say they did see a correlation between serotonin levels and depression, their experiments sucked. Pure and simple, they sucked. One paper had a grand total of 15 participants. Yeah, imagine telling the academic sphere that, hey, the things that I saw in these 15 people, we should apply that worldwide. Amongst these 15 individuals, some of them were within the same family. A family of depressed people, because that's not going to skew results at all, huh? Now, it's not academic, it's written in plain English, it's pretty accessible, but it is very thorough, and it's from a credible source, the Royal Australian College of General Practitioners. you're watching this and you are on antidepressants, especially SSRIs, I'm begging you, I am begging you as a health professional, do not stop taking your medication without talking to your doctor or your specialist. I did say before that SSRIs and other antidepressants can alter your mood and behavior. Story time again, right? The last time I took myself off an antidepressant, it wasn't an SSRI, it was an SNRI, a little bit different. It's a noradrenaline reuptake inhibitor. When I took myself off that, I was catatonic for 9 days. I couldn't walk, I crawled everywhere, I couldn't sleep, and I couldn't talk. Could not talk. And I can talk for days. I have ADHD. I never shut up. That's why I have a YouTube channel about science stuff, so that I can get an outlet. So yeah, don't do what I did. Be sensible and look after yourself. Well, I have to say, this was quite fun, just having a random idea of a nice short little video and just doing it. Comment down below if there are any science medical myths that you'd like me to look at. Anything to give me a break from the strangest medical conditions iceberg. It is killing me. It's huge, but I promise it's gonna be worth it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed researching it. Please hit like and subscribe to see more medical content. And now, back to the iceberg. Bye, friends.